Hello, everyone, and welcome to Realistic Realtors with Superior Coaching School. I'm Bill, this is Nick, and welcome to Volume 2 of Success Planning. And what makes us different, Nick, is we keep it real. And here at Realistic Realtors, we're all about action, which makes the difference in you reaching a level of success you want to be at. It's the steps that we teach you that you can take right away to better your business. And today, Nick, we're talking about accountability.
You're right, Bill. We are talking about accountability, and Bill handles a lot of the old school approach to this because that's how he built a very successful business. I'm more of a new school approach, right? Through social media and marketing, where Bill is through old school marketing, farming communities, things of that nature. But we both believe and we know that to be successful in today's market, you have to use a blend of both. So as you bring up accountability, I wanted to start today, as we always do, with a great quote from George Washington Carver. And he said that 99% of all failures come from people who have a habit of making excuses, right? And I think that speaks volumes.
We see that a lot. I hear all the time that I'm too busy. I was like, well, if real estate's your livelihood, you better make time for it.
Exactly.
So you're not too busy if your plan is to reach a goal, be successful, and sell in real estate. And you bring up accountability. What's real important is that we have to write a schedule and keep that schedule. And we probably do it two different ways, Nick, right? So Nick said before, I'm pretty old school when it comes to it. So I'll have my schedule. I'll write my schedule down on a piece of paper. Then I will transfer that to this huge desk blotter calendar. And I'll put down, it might be, November 23rd, it's a Wednesday, and I'll put down what I'm doing all day, almost hour by hour. And I'll take this piece of paper in the car with me, but I got a little new school, Nick. I actually take a photo of it with my camera. You probably start off your list, holding yourself accountable on a daily basis, a little different. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so really what we're talking about right now is keeping ourselves accountable, right, as realtors. So as you mentioned, Bill, right, I have my calendar all online, and that's something that you made a transition to over the last year. And so while you have a calendar online, what that allows you to do is using an app such as Google Calendars, which is what I would recommend, and there's plenty out there. But you want to use a calendar that can be accessible by more people than just yourself. Because if you want to schedule an event, you want to invite other people to add onto your calendar, or if you have an assistant like we do, or multiple assistants, people that you have in your organization, you need to have a place where everybody can view your calendar, what's going on, your events, all in one place. And I think it's important, especially when you're setting goals, right?
Yep.
And we bring up goals because, as we've covered, goals are so important to improving your business. And when you're setting your goals, we talk about putting them into action. And if you don't have a calendar set and you don't have a day every week that you take out, 30 minutes of your week, where you take out every single week, like on Monday, right? Choose a day to basically review the past week. Right? So we do this on Mondays. We do our accountability, as you know, on Mondays. And we say, okay, this is where we're going to review what did we miss last week? Where do we need to improve? Where could we have saved some time to put in more work to reach our goals?
Right. And, on a daily basis, as I said, I take my list, I transfer it to calendar, then I transfer it to my phone. At the end of the day, Nick, I look back at that and say, who did I forget about? What client did I forget about? And I make sure I put that on the top of the next day's list. And I review that list at the end of the night. It's the last thing I do before I go to bed. And if I had 10 things on my list for Monday, and I only did 8, I take those 2 that I didn't do, put them on Tuesday's list, okay? That way, when we hit Friday, Nick, I should have everything complete. And if I don't, I carry it back, like you were saying, I push it forward to Monday. But I always ask, what client did I not reach out today? What client did I not text? What client did I not email? But if it wasn't for holding myself accountable with a task list, I would never be successful. Because guess what? Maybe it's just me. I'm just not smart enough to maybe keep it going, but I need the list. I have to keep referring to it all the time.
Well, I think what you're really describing is you built a system, and it's a system that works for you. And it keeps you accountable because it's something that you've repeatedly done over time and that you've gotten used to. That, okay, you say to yourself, I'm going to make sure that no matter what, I'm going to think about at the end of every day, after I'm done with everything, right? We're finally done with working. You had some personal time, and you're sitting down, you're relaxing, you're getting prepared for the next day, as we all do, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, who can I call tomorrow that I didn't call today? Who do I need to reach out to tomorrow that I didn't make time to reach out to today? And I think that's important for keeping ourselves accountable. Now, let's get into keeping our clients accountable, because I think this is a very important step that a lot of realtors miss out there. The communication aspect with our clients, especially when they're new clients, right? For somebody you haven't worked with, new leads, online leads, in today's day and age, right? A lot of leads that we get, they're very cold.
Sure.
It never used to be like that in real estate, right, Bill? You really knew people a little bit more, or most of them were referrals.
Most referrals. We didn't have any tech leads coming in. And, when Nick talks about being accountable with our buyers, I'll just bring up an example. We are accountable to our buyers, okay, our clients, but they have to be accountable back to us too, and to themselves. So if we get them under contract and they're working with a lender, we don't have their personal information. They have to be accountable themselves with that lender, and we have to steer them and guide them in that direction to be accountable on that process.
So what are some ways that we can set those expectations?
Well, like you said, we have a system in place. We put them in touch with the lender. We make sure we're in contact with that lender, and we have a step-by-step process from, obviously filling out the pre-approval letter to once everyone has a copy of that contract, what's every step that buyer has to submit to that lender to get us through underwriting and to get us to a timely closing. I think that's real important.
And I think an important step with that, something we do, is you put your buyers, once you have established some communication there, and you mentioned the lender, and I think that the working relationship with the realtor and the lender is so important, you should put them into a three-way text message so that you guys are connected immediately. So again, when you have a lead that is saying, they're raising their hand saying, okay, I'm ready to talk to a lender, you put them into a three-way text message with your lender. So you want to make sure there's someone that you can count on, you can trust, and that you can work with. But that allows you all to introduce them from a third party and say, here is our preferred lender, someone we work with, and he or she will be reaching out to you, and we're going to keep in constant contact. And you're setting basically the expectation that, okay, they're gonna reach out, and you're keeping your lender accountable by the same token, right?
Sure. And as Nick said, make sure you're on a three-way text. Make sure that you're copied on every email, because buyers and clients get busy. It's up to us to make sure that client and lender are working well together.
Remember, we're the safety net.
Yeah, and we're also at fault if something falls through, even if it's not our fault.
Exactly.
So to stay on top of it with a three-way communication. We talked about a buyer accountability. I think that every agent should have an accountability partner or accountability mentor. I think that's really important, especially for new agents. They all should have a mentor.
But I think it's for every agent, right? And so let's talk action. Let's talk steps. Bill, you've had partners, accountability partners out there for many years.
Sure.
People that you can reach out to. People that are agents that are not even in the same firm as you.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't have to be. It could be a coach as well. And they're just people out there that you can relate to, you can count on to say, once a week, every week, we're gonna have a phone call.
Yeah.
I want you to check in with me every Monday.
Well,
right?
there's always someone better than you. And, it's hard for realtors to hear that, right? It's hard for a realtor to be humble because, we have to have some kind of mojo, some kind of ego to be successful. But I have a buddy of mine, Lee Peterson. He's been in the real estate business for 40 years. And he's like my accountability mentor. I don't need him to wake me up in the morning and get me going. But, maybe once a quarter, after 15 years in the business, I'll stumble across something and I'm like, I'm not too sure. So I'll call Lee. And I'll say, Lee, I came across this. There's an encroachment on a fence. It's kind of wiry here. Tell me what direction I should be going with this. Because with real estate, every day we're up against something that we probably don't see and don't realize. So yeah, even after 15 years, I have someone that I rely on that I know will give me the right answer.
And one thing that Lee would also do as well, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, is help you make sure you're on track to hit your goals. And I think that's really what we're getting at, is that you need someone you can count on.
Sure.
That knows what they're doing in real estate, obviously. But an accountability partner can be anybody. It can be somebody that you met in class, while you're getting your license. For new realtors out there, it can also be somebody in your office that really just is on top of their business. And someone like that is what we call an upholder, right?
And be selective who you partner with. That's important too.
Exactly. So as you see here on the screen, you can see that we have 4 basically types of people. We have upholders, people who are very disciplined, right?
Yeah.
These are your go-getters who might be time blocking. They might be always, they're always 15 minutes early to every meeting. These are people that are going to make sure that they have a system in place, and they're going to follow that system to a T. These are people you want to surround yourself with. Now, we see these here, right? We're getting to the other topics. I just want to say this briefly before. I think this is a very great reason why, when you're identifying your clients and your leads, you want to identify what kind of personality type, what style of communication do you need to keep up with. And I think if you reflect on yourself and say, I need to be an upholder, I need to be disciplined with my follow-up, and I'm going to keep myself accountable, I'm going to keep our lender accountable, and I'm going to make sure that the client knows that even if they're not as disciplined as myself, that I will be there to pick up the slack.
Right, and you're not just one of these. You have to be an obliger too, where you basically can count on me, and I can count on you. There's got to be give and take, if it's with your accountability partner or if it's with one of your clients. So of course we have to be disciplined, but at the same time we have to show that other party that they can count on us. But we also have to show them, set the expectation that we need their input, and they got to be accountable to us also.
Exactly, and again, I think what we get to is that, when you have somebody who might be questioning a lot of things, right? That's like a client that is doing that. It's understanding that there's a different form of communication. You're going to be listening a lot more, right? There's some clients who don't say very much, and you have to drive the conversation.
You have to drive. They want their hand held.
Exactly, but it's all about understanding and setting that expectation. So again, these are all things that you want to feel out in the first couple minutes of your first initial conversations, right? So when you're first talking to a lead, whether it's online, a referral, someone you met at an open house, you want to feel them out. Ask them a couple questions. So what are a couple ways or some questions that you might ask to just kind of get a feel for, okay, this person might be, I guess what I'm asking is, what kind of open-ended questions would you ask to get a feel for the kind of person they might be?
When the buyer first walks in?
Yeah.
What brings you out today, and what type of house are you looking for? They're not going to probably describe the house too much. You learn more about them. They'll tell you their likes and dislikes. That's what I find they describe, not so much the house. And that's what you want to get at when it comes to buyer or seller.
So when you talk about likes and dislikes, really what you're getting at is pain points, kind of identifying those, right? So trying to identify pain points. You're great at this, because you are. You got to take credit where it's due, because what you do very well, and what I want you guys to understand out there is when Bill's talking to somebody, right, you are basically just taking in information. You're listening to everything they say.
Got to be a good listener.
And you're adapting, right, to the way they communicate. So go into a little bit more detail just about how you can adapt to the situation.
Okay, so when I meet a new client, I really don't worry too much about what they want in a house. I'll ask them all about themselves. I'll say, hey, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself. You married? You have kids? How old are your kids? Oh, you grew up in Pennsylvania. Oh, you grew up in Pittsburgh. You ever been to Pimani Brothers? I'm trying to get a connection. Pimani Brothers is a world famous sandwich place, Or I'll say, oh, out in Indiana. All my cousins went to Notre Dame. Oh, your husband went to Notre Dame. Did he take economics? My professor, Leahy, my uncle, were there. So it's making a connection with that client. Then I can find out their wants and needs, and then I can learn how I can be accountable to that person based on their needs.
But what you're doing is you're now setting the expectation, right, that, okay, we can be more comfortable with each other. And I think that's really what I was getting at, is that when you're communicating with somebody initially, you got to set that expectation that, yes, I'm here to help you, but you can confide in me. You can be open.
Yep.
Because that's ultimately how you're going to bridge that gap. And that's when we get back to, again, the type of communication you have to use when you're keeping your clients accountable. You got to understand, how am I going to make them feel comfortable that I am on their side?
Right. So to review with our accountability lesson today, first off, you have to be accountable with yourself. You have to sit down and be a task master. You have to put down the tasks that you're going to have for the day. Every day, at the end of the night, review it and carry it on to the next day. As Nick said, I'm old school, I'll write it down. Nick will put it in his phone, in his calendar, and carry it over to his email. And he'll get pinged all the time, and that helps him keep up with his daily schedule. And then Nick, when it comes to working with clients, we have to figure out what their push points are. And once we do, and we know more about our client, we can be more accountable to their needs.
And we can set the expectation that this is what I'm going to provide to you. Here is who's going to help you and when they will follow up. And you're going to set that expectation that we can be comfortable with each other because you've loosened the conversation.
Sure.
And you've gotten to a point where you understand how to communicate, because it's obviously different for every single person. So let's take action out there, and let's all go home and identify the kind of personality that we are. Are we not at a point where we're upholding and being disciplined, right?
Yep.
Do we need to work on that? Do we need to improve our time blocking? Do we need to better our calendar? And then go out and find an accountability partner. I think that's very key. And this can be anybody. Doesn't even have to be a realtor. It can be just somebody that you can say, I want to call or follow up once a week,
Yep.
every week, and make sure that I'm hitting my goals, because ultimately it's all about achieving those goals and building business.
Right.
So who do we have this week speaking?
This
our
week, accountability, we have a great national coach, Cliff Freeman, talking about a guy that is disciplined. He surely is, and he's an obliger also.
There you go.
We can count on him all the time. It's going to be a great interview, and we welcome you guys to listen in.
Yeah, so we will see you guys after the Cliff interview. I think you'll get a lot of value out of what he's got to say. And I think with Cliff, you're going to hear not only is he going to keep himself accountable, he keeps everyone around him accountable. And that's what I think will be the big takeaway. So we're so excited. We'll see you in the next video.
See you guys later.